We're learning, we'll start learning now, Igeres HaKodesh, the fourth section of Tanya, page 226 in the regular Tanya, all Hebrew Tanya, chapter 9. And let me give you a little introduction to what we're going to learn here and what we're learning B'chlal. These letters, these 32 letters of Igeres HaKodesh are primarily focused on, I would say, two themes. One is giving tzedakah, particularly to people in Eretz Yisrael, the importance with sources from Chazal, from Kabbalah, etc., Hasidus. And number two, the importance of davening. And that's the thrust of Igeres HaKodesh. If someone asks you, what is Igeres HaKodesh about? And originally, yes, sir.
Turn myself up here. So I was thinking about this morning. You can look at it two ways. That there's a theme to the letter, and then there's the meat of the letter. The theme of the letter may be giving tzedakah, but the Alter Rebbe goes into kind of deep Kabbalistic things to explain it. So the question I have is one, which is the vehicle and which is the ikar? So, meaning, is the ikar, he wants to give tzedakah, or is the ikar that telling us to give tzedakah is a vehicle by which to transmit lessons in Chassidus? Same thing with davening, is because we have a vehicle for communication. You want to tell somebody something, but you have to package it in a certain way. So what's the packaging and what's the essence?
Okay. Good question.
One more question, which I don't know if there is such a thing, but I know there's like a map of Tanya that goes through and explains is there such a thing for the Igeres that, no, because it does seem like there is a development throughout the letters and how they were placed in. I know it's not chronological, but it seems like there is some development of theme as it goes along.
Yeah, so okay, the map you're talking about was not made by one of the Rabbeim. It was made by Rabbi Chaim Dalfin, and he did a good job at it, and God bless him. But there is no map from one of the Rabbeim, so that's the first thing that you need to know. So the map does not have what we call in Torah literature gushpanke de malka. You've heard of the word gushpanka, the seal of the king. That's a reference used in Torah literature that it was substantiated by Rabbonim, Gedolim, Tzadikim, Chazal, Gushpanke de Malka. So whether you're a Chassid, Litvak, Sephardic, this, it makes no difference. Everyone has their Gushpanke de Malka. So a chassid who writes an interpretation or clarification of Tanya did a wonderful job, but unless the Rebbe or the Rabbeim, or even, let's say, a man like Rabbi Yoel Khan would give him a Gushpanke de Malka, it would have more credence. So I just want to, I'm not saying this to Chas v'Shalom, put down what the work he did. He did a fantastic job. But it's not Gushpanke de Malka. You have to know that right away. So, it's important to know that, because, for example, I'm not going to go into it now because we're getting off topic right even before I had a chance to talk. I don't want to say who. You'll figure it out, but I don't want to say who. Someone who wrote or taught Tanya, and it was written up. I took it out years ago when I was teaching, people who weren't yet from Tanya and wanted to use more psychological ideas and words that they can relate to, self-improvement, So that was the angle I was coming at when I was teaching them Tanya. So I used this, I took out this book, Sefer, and looked how this person, which I thought would teach Tanya that way, because he was also dealing with a group of such people, maybe on a higher level, and he said pshat, he wrote pshat according to what they wrote down. Again, he didn't write it, but I think that, the person who wrote it, translated, did a fine job. So, contrary to the way I was taught by Rabbi Yoel Tanya, and the way Hasidim were taught by the Rashab and the Rashab's Mashpiyim, the opposite. And it left a very bad taste on me, and I've discussed it with others. In other words, brilliant mind, excellent mind, no problem. But the Messiah is not there. Gushpanke de Malke means you follow a Messiah, a tradition. That is so important for us in Yiddishkeit, in Frumkeit. And the Messiah for Hasidim is different than the Messiah than Ashkenazim. We know all that, but everyone has their Messiah. But you need a Messiah. If you just have a brilliant mind and you give interpretation, God bless you, but it could be contrary to the Messiah. I'm not interested I'm interested in following my Messiah. If I became a Chabad Chassid and I want to know Tanya al Pi Chabad, I want to know Tanya al Pi Chabad. I mean, Moshe and I had a discussion with a Tanya that was being given, I believe, at HaKodesh. I don't know if it's still going on, and it's Gavaldik. And I asked him a few things, and the Messiah, the Messiah is not there, which is fine. He doesn't claim to be a Chabadnik giving over the Messiah of Tanya, And Tanya, just like Mesilas Yesharim, and just like Nesiva Shalom, or whatever sefer you're learning, it's an open sefer for anyone to learn. I don't want we should walk away saying, oh, you're not allowed to learn a sefer with not a Messiah. I'm not saying that. I'm saying me as a teacher who feels very committed to this Messiah, I want to communicate as much as I can this. And when I read something from a Chabadnik, who's bright, who's knowledgeable, but it goes against the Messiah because he doesn't have that Messiah for whatever reason, okay, that's another discussion, not for now. It's fine, but that's not what I want to teach, okay? So I'm saying, when you talk about the map on Tanya, I want to make it very clear that's not from the Rabbeim. And doesn't have the approval of the Rabbeim or even a person like Rabbi Yoel Kahn, who was a funnel of Chabad Hasidus for the Rebbe, the Rabbeim, because he received from his teacher and his teacher received from the Rashab. There's a Messiah. We have a clear Messiah. So that's number one. But regarding Igeres HaKodesh, there isn't, as far as I know, I haven't seen that. And there's a reason for it. The first section of Tanya, the 53 chapters, is very organized. It's very thematic and systematic. First, it talks about who we are, what do we have within ourselves, what do we need to do about it. I mean, there's a clear system, right? Igeres Shara Yichudim is about the unity of God, the reconciling, God and the universe. Pretty much one topic divided into 12 chapters, but it's one topic. Igeres HaTshuva is another topic. The topic is called Tshuva, right? Igeres HaKodesh is a very different baby, okay? It's a compilation of letters from different years, not in chronological order at all, okay? Not in chronological order at all, which was not originally chosen by the Balatanya to be part of Tanya. Do you hear that? He did not have it as part of Tanya, but his sons decided for the situation at hand at the time, which is that there were brothers and sisters in Israel who starved and didn't have what to eat, and we need to get our Russian brethren to give them tzedakah, and not just give tzedakah one time, but yearly. And as we learn these letters, we see clearly there is this theme. Hey guys, you gave tzedakah last year to the people in Eretz Yisrael. Why'd you stop? Why aren't you giving as much? And the Alter Rebbe really uses, and we're going to see in this letter that we're going to start learning today, I mean, it's Hashem, very, very sharp lines. I mean, and you see the sharpness is because it's relevant, bepoil mamish. This is not theoretical, these letters. This is not a study of Kabbalah, Hasidus, philosophy, sitting in a base medrash, sitting in a koilo. This is real life. They don't have what to eat. They need money. That's what these letters are about. Even the second aspect of the letters that I mentioned, the idea of tefillah, it's very real as far as how do you daven? What do you daven with? You're davening 3 times a day. So even that is more, in a way, more real than just theoretical reconciliation of God's unity. So that's why the sons of the Alter Rebbe felt that we should make this the 4th section of Tanya to show its importance, because the Sefer Tanya Kadisha has been accepted by Klal Yisrael, okay, pretty much, etc. And therefore, if we append these letters to the Tanya, it'll become as accepted by the readers and the learners, and the bottom line is they're going to give tzedakah to the people in Eretz Yisrael. That's what we're learning now. Now, as far as your one second, I want to just finish answering his question. As far as what is the ikar, your question, if I understand it correctly, is similar to this. It says in the Torah, okay, to put on tefillin. Why do we need Masechtas Menachos, where Hodeh speaks about the details of tefillin? What do we need it for? The answer is because how do you know what teitofes are? Kind of teitofes. Bind something to your hand. What should I bind? An apple, an orange. What should I bind? So you must have interpretation of the Gemara, which we believe as from Jews, we believe is God's will. It's called Torah Shebal Peh, the oral tradition, which it interprets the verses in the Shema, which are in the Torah. So now ask me the question. What's the Iker? The bottom line to put on tefillin or the Gemara Masechtas Menachos? What's the answer? You don't know what the Torah means unless you learn and understand and accept what the Gemara says. And the same is true here. Just to say to give tzedakah, listen, I know this business, I know this field. Just to say give tzedakah don't work for most people. Why should I give tzedakah? Who should I give tzedakah? What's the need? People want to know. And it's not just today people want to know. From beginning of mankind, people want to know, why should I help? What's going on? Yes, once in a while you'll find this genuine person who is called a beloved of God, Oyevei Hashem, who jumps at a mitzvah before he knows. That's an exception, and it's a big darga and gewaldig. But most people, the average person, is not that way. So the Alter Rebbe, Avram, please mute yourself. The Alter Rebbe, in these chapters, and you're right, it's very good that you asked this because you identified. He doesn't just say give tzedakah to the starving Jews in Eretz Yisrael. He goes into the whole psychology, methodology, philosophy of what tzedakah is, as we're learning over here, and it's actually a deep limud. It's not in fact, the way I heard from my teachers, it's a very hard limud. Igeres HaKodesh in a way is a harder limud, is a more difficult study than the other three sections. Because the other three sections, like I said, are very defined. You know the theme. You know what the Alter Rebbe is generally out to accomplish. In Igeres HaKodesh, tzedakah, give tzedakah. Well, there's 32 chapters and a lot of pages. And he goes into all kinds of details. And I want to correct you, Isser, because it's important. You expressed yourself Kabbalah. This isn't Kabbalah. This is Hasidus. The Alter Rebbe is not teaching Kabbalah. The Alter Rebbe knew Kabbalah, and he uses Kabbalah's ideas and words, but it's Hasidus. He's a student of the Baal Shem Tov and the Holy Maggid, and therefore it's Hasidus. Yes, he employs the words Ak, Memale, and Seviv, and Atzilus, and on and on and on. But it's not Kabbalah. And this is an important thing what I'm telling you now, because frankly, most Hasidic groups think that Tanya and Chabad Hasidus is Kabbalah, and they say we don't learn Kabbalah. I'll tell you a story. I was just sitting this Shabbos. Upstate New York, there's a place called Sharon Springs. It's next to Saratoga, New York. And they have springs there. There was always hotels there, Jews owned hotels. People came to vacation and went to the springs, the hot springs. This person who told me this, his parents owned a hotel there in the 1960s. So this is coming from the son. Just told me this fresh off the press, the story, this Shabbos. So he says, the Satmar Rebbe, not Reb Yoelish, but the next one, Reb Moshe Teitelbaum, who was known as the Seagetter. He came from a city called Seaget, right? And after the Satmar Rebbe, Reb Yoelish, passed away in 1979, in 1980, he became the Rebbe. And today, two of his sons, Reb Zalman and Reb Aaron, each one became a Rebbe. They split, and they pretty much live in Cold War type of peace, each one has 10, 20,000 Hasidim with buildings and people, so the show goes on and everyone is happy. But their father was this Reb Moshe, and he was known as the Seagetter from Seaget, right? So he was in Sharon Springs. The mother of the person telling me this was a good friend with his wife. And every day at a certain time, they would take a walk, a stroll. It was good air. It was, vacationing to. So once this person's telling me, he overheard Reb Moshe telling someone else, he says, Ich bin gewesen in Frankreich. After the war, they came to France. And they were in France for a few years before they came to America. He says, aber gesehen Lubavitcher. I saw Lubavitcher Hasidim. Them getrinken gläslich Bromfen. They drank entire cups of vodka and scotch. Okay. And he's like saying this like, wow. I've never seen you. He's a Hungarian from Siget. I never saw such a avoida of drinking, not just taking a toast, but drinking quite a bit. And then he says, and the vice vus, and you know what? They lernen dem Rebbe's Teures. In other words, a mimer. Hungary, you didn't use the word a mimer. You used the word Teures, teachings. So he says, and with bewilderment in his voice and his face, the vice vus, you know what? They lernen dem Rebbe's Teures. They actually study the Torah that their Rebbe says. Why? Because by the Hungarians, even if a Rebbe says a few words during a tish, it used to be that no one paid attention, no one wrote it down, and no one studied it. It was kind of part of the tish, like Hillel. You have a Shabbos table, you say a Dvar Torah. Is anyone writing down what you said? Is anyone taking you seriously? Yeah, they shake their head. Nice word, thank you very much. And that next portion, okay, where's the soup? Where's the meat, right? So what the Rav Moshe saw by the Lubavitcher Hasidim, that they sat down to review what the Rebbe had said years before, the Rashab or the Rayatz, and they learned it seriously. They're mamish learning their Rebbe's Torahs. He never saw such a thing. Right? That's the end of the story. The whole idea of Chassidus is such a Chabad Chassidus in particular, is completely different than most other Hasidic groups, especially the Hungarian Hasidim, where there wasn't a seriousness given to the Torahs of their Rebbe. Today, Baruch Hashem, there is kind of this Hasidus Igeres by the Gera Hasidim and other groups, and God, Baruch Hashem, it all is a copy of the Chabad's Hasidus Igeres, which some of you learn, which is fine. So there is now more attention being paid to the Torahs of their Rebbes. So what I'm saying is Hasidus is not Kabbalah. And I told you the story that I sat down with someone who wanted to learn Torah Shlomo, that Adomsker, he didn't want to learn Tanya. No, Tanya, no, you're forbidden to learn Tanya. I said, no, but he wants to learn with me Hasidus. I said, okay, what do you want to learn? He says, Torah Shlomo, because that's what he learned in yeshiva from der Adomsker. No problem. We start learning. All of a sudden, there's some ideas in Kabbalah words. He says, oh, we have to skip this. I say, why do we skip this? He says, I was taught in yeshiva, when you come in a Hasidic sefer, when you come to some Kabbalistic word, you skip it. Okay. No. More Kabbalistic words. We skip it. Basically, we skipped most of of the chapter. I said to him, I love you, but I can't learn with you anymore. What do you mean you skip? If it's brought in a Hasidic sefer, it's part of that Hasidus, which is part of Baal Shem Tov. It's not Kabbalah. So therefore, I hope that this Isser will get you to understand, to think about this, that Hasidus is not Kabbalah. So the Alter Rebbe is not teaching Kabbalah here. He uses ideas and words that are used in Kabbalah. Now to Moshe, to your question.
Or maybe it's hopefully a quick question. One of the things I've noticed is that when we look at different Perushim on the Tanya, when I mean Perush, I'm talking, let's say, from Chabad sources, of Steinsaltz, even Rabbi Chaim Miller, I don't know, maybe Chassidus Muveres, etc. They give their explanations and so forth for on the first three parts of Likutei Amarim, Shar Yichud V'Amuna, the Igeres Tshuva. After that, it seems like the only one that I could find that gives Perushim is the Lessons in Tanya.
Correct.
The classic. So I'm wondering, why is that? Almost feels like when you start going into Igeres HaKodesh, it's like the frontier. It's like uncharted waters almost.
Yeah, Avi is back, and welcome, Avi. Wonderful to have you, Avi. Good to see you well. And Avi wrote to me this morning before the shir about that. You have to ask them. I don't know why, but I think it's probably because of some of what I said. It's a more difficult study. It's not as clear and not confined and not organized. And that's probably one reason. Even by Mishpir Rabbi Yoel, he never taught us Igeres HaKodesh. He taught it here in Borough Park because they twisted his hand and he agreed, but he did it very fast. In other words, it seems like Chabad Hasidim kind of learned Igeres HaKodesh on their own. They didn't have teachers in Igeres HaKodesh. And again, I think the reason is because it's not as clearly structured in a way that they could say that they're using their Chabad. You understand? It's a different type of a limud. But it's a necessary limud. And our Rebbe didn't accept all that. To him, you gotta learn it, but nevertheless, it's like you ask a question. Why in the yeshivas, some of your kids or grandkids or friends, why do they learn certain mesechtas? Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra, right? And other mesechtas. And why not? Why don't they delve into brachas, Beya, Megillah, Tainus, Chagiga, Rosh Hashanah? They don't. Why not? Because that's the easy stuff. Oh, really? Meanwhile, Rabbi Soloveitchik, the Rav, gave a shir every Tuesday night in Manhattan for years on those mesechtas. So if you want to learn deeply those mesechtas, you can. But that's the way it is, in what they call the yeshivisha mesechtas. If you say you're learning brachas, they laugh at you. You're a laughing stock. You really want to know Gemara, you got to learn. The Brisker learn Kachim. The others learn the Bavas. You know what I'm saying? Bava Basra, Cheskas Abatim, Chazaka Mikara, all these concepts, Migui. These are all from Talmudic ideas in the Gemara there in Bava Basra. That's called learning.
Oh, Chaim, it's Master Rabbi.
Hello. Mute yourself, Chaim, mute yourself. Anyway, Yoini, mute yourself, please. So all I'm saying is, in a similar way, Igeres HaKodesh wasn't seen as the deep learning like Igeres HaTshuva, Shara Yichud, the first part. Let's learn a little bit inside, because Avi will give it to me after the shir if I don't learn anything inside. Pedic test. Avi, we love you. We love you, and we know what you want. Ahuvai achai v'rei. Page 226. My beloved brothers and friends, Asher kinafshi bosi, I've come to you with my soul, kimaskir, as a memory to remind you, uma'ire yeshenim, and to awaken you slumber ones, bitidemas hevli havolim, you're asleep with the anxiety and worrisome stuff of narishkeit, of nonsense. You hear this, Lashon? This is the way the Alter Rebbe begins this letter. Could you imagine, Avram, you're writing a letter and you want people to give tzedakah, and how do you start? Hey, brothers, I love you all, but you're all in the dark. If you think people are going to give you money from such a letter, it ain't happening. But this is the way the Alter Rebbe starts. Ahuvai ache berei. He tells us he loves us like his own brothers, like his own friends. Asher kenafshi, deeper, his soul, his nefesh. But I come to remind you to wake up from your slumber of being involved in nonsense. What does it mean? It means, as I'll say in a moment, if you look after yourself and your family because it's selfish, it's stupidity, it's hevel vavolim, it's havle havolim, it's narishkeit in Yiddish, nonsense. And v'livkoyach, let's continue, einei ha'ivrim, I come to open the eyes of the blind. Very, very heavy language. Yabitu lirois, so that you will look and see, liyois kol yishom v'cheftzom umagmosam, 3 words, that your entire turn, interest, v'cheftzom, and desire, umagmosam, and yearning, 3 words to imply your strong yearning and longing should be l'chol bahem, to be incorporated chaye rucham b'mokar mayim chayim. The spirit of the life of your spirit should be incorporated in the source of mayim chayim, living water, chaya chayim, life within life, kol yemei chaya yehem. all the years of your life, menefesh ad ruach, from soul to flesh. Stop. So this is all kind of, these 4 lines are an introduction. The Alter Rebbe says, my dear friends, I'm writing you a letter to wake you up from your slumber. And the slumber is, as we'll see soon, that you're only worried about yourself and your families. And if that's the purpose of you giving your tzedakah, you're in dark. But I'm coming here to wake you up and to have you realize that you need to do the mitzvah of tzedakah to your own family as well, not as a selfish gesture, but as a godly experience, which is everyone is alike. Let's look further. The Hainu. So the Hainu, the last line on page 226, begins what he wants. Let's see what he wants. The Hainu. Kol mila de alma, all worldly matters, v'iske parnosa, and ideas of sustenance, of livelihood, parnosa, lo yiyeh ke'elu, should not be like those. Top of page Kuf Yud Dalet, next page. The avdin legarmayu, that do it for themselves, for the selfish self, for themselves. Beis Yisrael, and the Jewish nation should not be ka'evdi gelilim, but means idol worshippers. But this was really the word goyim. The censor of Tanya during the time it was printed had to change it, because if it would write goyim, they could be in big trouble, because it means everyone. So that's why they wrote ka'evdi gelilim. The Jewish nation should not be like idolaters, right? But it really means like all goyim. That what? The zonin umefarnesin umekoiden, that support and give sustenance and assistance, linishayu, this is Aramaic, to their wives, ubeinayu, and their children. Me'ava, out of love. Hey, wait a minute. What's wrong to support your family, Avi, because you love them? So here you are, a grandfather. You work, you make some money, and you want to give the money to your grandkids. Gewaltig. You should get a medal. Instead of hoarding the money, you're giving it away. Says the Alter Rebbe, yeah, right. But if it's just because it's family, and it's just because it's like doing it for your own, it's like all other goyim. Now, goyim are fine, but the selfish aspect is there. And we are Am Yisrael. We need to do things for God, not for ourselves, just for ourselves. That's what he says here. So don't take this as a put down to goyim. I'm sure there are those that will say, oh, here again the Alter Rebbe slams goyim. Right? No. He means, what is the norm? The norm is for yourself. You think about yourself. You think about your wife. Think about your children. Think about your family. That's the norm. The Alter Rebbe says, I know. I understand. But we're not the norm. You know, I've always said, right? We Jews are not normal. We're not normal. The norm is goyim. A Jew is beyond the norm. And the Alter Rebbe says, Ki goy, ki mi ka'amcha, ki Yisrael goyechad ba'aretz. Who is like you Jews, one nation ba'aretz. Ksiv, it says. And the Alter Rebbe explains, look at his explanation. Dahainu, shegam b'inyoni aretz, lo yafridu o yifridu me echod ho'emes chas v'sholem. Goy echad ba'aretz means that even in earthly matters and earthliness, ba'aretz, you should find echad there. Goy echad ba'aretz. The specialty of the Jewish people is that even in artziyut, in materiality, in corporeality, you should find God. So, even when you're giving money to family, to support your wife and family, which is artzi, is the norm, earthliness, material, it has to be imbued with goy echad, with echad ba'aretz. In other words, it should be godly and heavenly. And this he will develop tomorrow more. But that's what he's coming here. And by the way, important just to end, he's writing this to his people in Russia to support Reb Mendel of Vitebsk and Rav Avram of Kalisk, who made Aliyah in 1788, going to Tveria, as you know, and with Hasidim, I think 300 Hasidim. A community was being developed, and they don't have what to eat. And the people in Russia had more. So the Alter Rebbe says, you're going to tell me that you're worried about your own skin here in Russia. Says the Alter Rebbe, if that's the case, you're not doing it for God, you're doing it for yourself. The next point that he's going to mention, which we'll learn tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem, is that the order of precedence in giving tzedakah, which is part of Chazal and Halacha, is another aspect and an important aspect. But the Nekuda Klalit, the general idea that he's teaching here in this Igeres 9, letter 9, is that anything, even the good that you do, if it's just self, and self means not necessarily only you, your wife, your family, your community. In other words, there's a strings attached. It's not godly. It's earthly. It's goyim. That's why he said, I'm a good Jew. I'm a good Jew. We don't want you to be a good Jew, only a good Jew. We need you to be a holy Jew. I think Rav Shlomo Carlebach used to always say that, right? Holy, holy. The holy, the HaKodesh, the Kedusha. It's not enough just to be good. There's a lot of good people. And we need more good people. But we are Am Yisrael, a holy nation. Chevra will continue tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed. Welcome back, everyone. Please don't let this be a one-time thing. This is great stuff. Again, it's a HaKodesh, and trust me, our shiurim will be listened to for years to come because there's nothing so far. There's very little on the Igeres HaKodesh, so we're all making history daily. Take care. Bye bye. Take care. Have a great day.